Welcome to episode 88 of the Twig Snapper Podcast. Today I'm joined by Keegan McGraw, currently of the Waterford Sharks, also played in the Fed, bare knuckle boxing. He's got a lot to tell us, and we got a lot to talk about. How you doing?
Good. How about yourself? Thanks for having me on, buddy. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. I'm doing a lot better now that we got through that shit show connection issues and all that.
Figured it out though.
Don't they say technology is supposed to be our friend? I mean,
yeah, no shit. Holy.
Yeah. Well, we got through it. We're here now, and we got a lot of good stuff to talk about. I think you're the fourth enforcer we've had on the podcast. We've had a few, but not many. So I think you're the fourth enforcer. We got to get a few more on here.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But that's part of the game that makes it entertaining for a lot of people, is the whole fighting part. But we'll get into that later. We'll start off by kind of talking about you. And you grew up playing goalie, but you racked up the PIMs, and would you have like 200 penalty minutes in net?
Yeah. I got found guys like Emery, Ronnie Hextall, those guys. Even when I was in net, even before I was boxing stuff, I still always had that fiery side. Really enjoyed that side of things, even though a lot of coaches and shit got upset by it, a lot of my antics, but yeah, was always having fun in there and in between the pipes.
So were you fighting other goalies, or were you taking chops at players? I mean, where were you getting your PIMs from?
Mostly, I mean, I'd be lying if I said there weren't a couple tens in there too, but as much as I wouldn't want to say that, but no, most of my fights when I was like playing junior and in net and shit was against like opposing players. I tried to make it work with a couple tendies, but none of them really wanted anything to do with me, to be honest. The closest I got to it was I almost had this kid go me in Temiskaming when we were up in Quebec, but he wouldn't go. But yeah, no, a lot of opposing players and tough guys and shit, mix-ups in front of the net. Whatever opportunity I could have to snap, I usually would capitalize on it. But, I'd always take a look at the scoreboard first, but sometimes, would just take over, couldn't control it. But
right.
Yeah.
Sure. Everyone likes a good goalie fight, though. I mean, when you get them, we don't get them very often, but sure. Everybody likes that.
We tried to figure it out with a couple bigger attendees and get on the messenger and try to line it up before the game. They'd say, but they'd never end up wanting anything to do with it.
Yeah, and usually if the goalies want to, the refs will break it up before the goalies, because you got to come from opposite ends of the ice. The refs come in there and they screw it up and they ruin everyone's fun.
Especially if there's for sure. It definitely helps if everybody else is going, like a bit of a distraction. But yeah, if you're just trying to do a tendy fight alone, it's kind of
sure. Probably not gonna work.
Yeah.
You also would you get suspended for fighting in the stands when you were younger or something like that?
Yeah. So my very first road trip in junior hockey, the first team I was playing first year, we went to St. Louis, and it was a triple header weekend, and my folks had came from Pontiac to the game too, and or for the 3 games, and I had started the first 2, and then because St. Louis was one of the lower placed teams in the league too, and we had won the first 2 games, and I was a healthy scratch the 3rd game, and my buddy, who was the goon on the team at the time, we used to call him Killer. This guy was short and thick as hell and just fucking mean, man, just mean. But we're sitting there, and there was a dirty hit. They put one of our guys in a stretcher at the end of the game, real bad hit from behind. So when they were getting off the ice, I think they came back to us the following weekend, and so they're walking off the ice, and we waited by the locker room. My buddy Seth is like, telling them like, oh, I'll see you. We'll be seeing you next weekend. Like right off the hop, but I'll be seeing one of you. And the first guy he said that to is, he says, well, what about right now? And it's like, of course, like Jesus, like because obviously once everything breaks off, I have to get involved, obviously. And there ends up being like 15 out of them, and it's just me and him, and we're just fucking, and we're in our jumpsuits, and all these lads are in full gear. Security guards are jumping in, but we're just going everybody. There was this one of the guys that I ended up with. I always tell this part. He had these eyebrow piercings that he like played within, and I remember just pounding them into his head.
Oh.
But my folks were there. My folks, once the security guards got going, my folks are coming over. My mom's coming over. Fucking everybody's getting crazy. So. No, but yeah, big fun. But yeah, no, I ended up getting like it was 15 or 17. It's a good amount of games because I'm pretty sure Osgood was the one who was like the main judge in that GLJHL during that year, and I'm pretty sure he was the one that made the final decision. But I don't know. I was pretty pissed. I was pissed about it because it's like, what am I supposed to do? You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
didn't, but it is what it is. But yeah, it was pretty wild, man. We were literally fighting like just a mountain of like players in their gear, and we were just in our jumpsuits. But it worked though, because they got all that shit on. You're just in your jumpsuit and piece up a
Yeah.
couple of them quick at a time. And the guy I was going with, he was no cupcake. He was tough as nails. So we were mowing through them pretty quick.
That's some real
Yeah.
life slap shot shit there. I mean, like when they hop up
Yeah.
into the stands and they're going.
Yeah. It's funny. My buddy, shout out Larry McShane. He's one of my closest lads growing up, and he moved out to junior with me. Him and my buddy Murphy from down here for our first year in Bay City. And he was, when that was all going on, the refs were holding him. He was jumping on the glass with his skates on the boards, trying to get, roll over the top of the glass, and the refs are holding him on the ice. Yeah, it was a whole shit show. Silly stuff
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stories though.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Big fun.
So obviously the goalie thing really didn't work out for you, long term. How did you end up going from that into the bare knuckle boxing?
Yeah, so in that, once I had went to camp when I was like 20 or 21, like right shortly after I got back from Canada, I went to I got invited to a camp with the Port Huron Prowlers their inaugural year, and I signed with them after camp, but I had some shit going on at home, and I wasn't able to leave or travel or anything. I had some shit going on, so that kind of ended it because I started playing like senior and beer league, net and stuff, and it just wasn't doing. Any goalie will tell you, you'll drive yourself nuts, playing net and beer league and all that shit. So that ended it pretty quickly, to be honest. I stopped playing that pretty quickly after that, and then to be honest, I didn't step on the ice after that for like 5-6 years. It had been a long time, which I definitely regret, but at the same time I don't, because who knows if I would have been back on this strange path that I've
Yeah.
returned back on. But yeah, and that off time, I when I wasn't playing though, I really got into boxing, and I got into the bare knuckle scene, and a couple, I think 2 years ago now, and in March I went down to New Orleans for I got invited to a prospect camp for BKFC, for the main bare knuckle promotion here in the States, and I went down there, had a good showing, and linked up with my bare knuckle manager, Kevin Smith. He's out of Tampa Bay down there. He's got a gym down in Tampa. Shout out Smith Brothers Combat Sports and Smith Brothers Management. But yeah, linked up with them. And then shortly after that, I really got into the bare knuckle scene. I've kind of been on their backlist, and they're for like any heavyweights that drop out of the prelims. And I haven't gotten a call, which is, annoying, but that's just kind of how it works, especially in a promotion that high, right? So it's looking like, I know I'm kind of speeding up because I wanted to mention this at some point anyway, but in August, I got a bare knuckle fight over in the UK that it's looking like we're locking down. We were deciding between one over there and one in Montana. I think we're going to go with that one, but I'll get back into that. I want to make
Okay.
sure I bring that up in that for sure.
Yeah.
But back to where we were at. Yeah, so I had and shout out AJ Galante. AJ, I wouldn't, with the opportunity he originally gave me a year ago, I wouldn't even be back on skates, doing all this crazy stuff, back on the ice playing hockey. But when I was recovering from my shoulder injury, last December, because this past season I only played like 8 games. I only like the total of the year, because I came back late because I was waiting to get cleared from the doctor for my shoulder that I all fucked up. Completely, my shoulder is absolutely mangled, and that was the one that I had the surgery on too. But we got that right and busted it out in like record time. Shout out my physical therapist Tony, the guy fucking knows my body better than I do, man. He always fixes me up. But once I got right from that, I had a bunch of like in my inbox and stuff. Once I had kind of got my foot in the door a little bit from like teams in the Fed, and towards the end of recovering my shoulder, and teams in the LNAH, the Wild
Oh
Quebec
yeah.
League up there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And because we were trying to sneak me in because, they have the import rule that
Mm-hmm.
unless you're born and raised in Quebec or the Maritimes or played junior in Quebec or the Maritimes or anything like that, you're not allowed in, unless you're grandfathered in, because that was the rule they started like 5 years ago. And when I was playing junior in Canada, I'd played some games in Temiskaming, like in Quebec. So we were trying to like squeeze that
Use
through the
that
rule
as
books and try
yeah.
to, but technically since it wasn't Quebec sanctioned, they weren't going for it. And because I was talking with Laval at first, that was the first team there I was talking with. And then I started talking with Montcalm, one of the expansion teams, and they were really trying to get me up there. Montcalm was working for it, and they just couldn't figure it out. So hopefully they change that, man, because for that being a show league, like all the
Yeah.
animals they could get, in that jungle,
Yeah.
especially with the internet these days, because that league used to pack the Molson Center, like before the internet was big, just because everybody
Yeah.
knew it was like WWE on skates, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You really though, they have like an NHL line, like a first line that produces, and then they have like 8-9 heavyweights, just gorillas that go out there every night. Well, that's more how it used to be. They kind of have like one or two guys now, but still, they still got some big boys that are still going in that league. But anyway, after all that got figured out that was a no-go, Carolina Ruts was reaching out to me, the Carolina T-Birds, and in the Fed there, and it was right after I got cleared. He was talking to me about 2 weeks beforehand, and then I got a hold of him right when the doc cleared me, and they wanted me to come down to Carolina. And at that point, I just had a lot going on here, and I couldn't really pick up and move, even though I wanted to. And so that kind of went on pause for a little bit, but then they ended up coming to Motor City a few weeks after we had originally spoke. He was like, "Hey, we're in. If you're in the area, if you're at home, if you wanna come out for 2 games, well, I was like, well, shit, yeah, absolutely. Got cleared, and I was eager to get back on the ice. Like I was eager to start something, with what I was doing. Like I had been skating and stuff, and it was my way to get my foot in the door. So I jumped at it and went out. Yeah, had a good weekend with them. Great group of fellas. Uh, Nobody would go me the first game, but had to scrap the second game off the drop of the puck in the first period there. And yeah, boys got the dub that game. And yeah, no, it was big fun, man. It was a good opportunity. And then after that, I started talking with a couple buddies on the Waterford team, because Waterford's just a couple miles down the road, and I know a couple of the lads involved with that team. And Johnny Stonehouse with Wheel TV and Wheel Productions. He was one of my fight sponsors. He is one of my fight sponsors, excuse me. And he does some TV and production for the Waterford team. So he was like, they'll definitely they'd love to have you. They need some toughness. They need a fighter, this type deal. And I was like, for sure. And their rink I played at when I was younger and stuff too. So like the thought of, dropping the gloves at center ice and the old like blue rink at Lakeland, like I loved the idea of that. So, and it worked out because like, you got to remember, like I hadn't practiced as a player. I hadn't, you know what I mean? Like I had to go
Yeah.
through all that, like edge work, like all the important shit was actually like playing, using like all the player equipment, as silly as that sounds. But it worked out perfectly because it was right down the road, and a couple practices a week, playing a lot. So yeah, it ended up working out great. And yeah, great group of lads on that team. Shout out to all the Sharks boys. Big love for all the Sharks. Big ups. And yeah, ended up getting like 6 or 7 games with them. Actually ended up getting a few points and stuff too along the way. Like,
Yeah, I saw a couple of goals.
Yeah, for sure. So no, man, it's been great. I'm really looking forward to, just even with the few connections that I've made so far. Like it's such a small, tight knit community. Like I'm really obviously bare knuckle boxing is my main, the main breadwinner, and my main thing, that I focus on. But hockey wise, I really am looking forward to, whoever needs, a caveman, in the next few years. Like I'm really looking forward to developing, because I'm working with a couple guys right now on ice, one-on-one shit, and really developing, the small things, and try to, make a push for, next few years here in the hockey world too, seeing what I can do. It's been unreal being back on the ice, and just with this opportunity, man, I'm not going to take it for granted, going to definitely squeeze every drop out of it for sure.
Yeah, so you're going to keep going if you can, take every opportunity. There's more hockey in the future for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, these next few years, like I said, sometimes I'll have to, mid-season, if there's a big fight or something, I have to take it. Like I said, that comes. But when it comes to the mercenary duties, like I'd love, I know there's quite a few guys in the Fed this year coming up that are sticking around, and that new team, the other teams have signed, and definitely going to be some heavyweights, lurking around. So I'm definitely looking forward to some mercenary duties, with a few clubs this upcoming year for sure. But no, for definitely looking forward to starting back up, with the Waterford squad and stuff. But yeah, I'm excited. Like I said, there's some tough guys in the Fed coming up this year. There was this past year, but I'm looking forward. I'm going into the beginning of the season healthy and stuff. So any opportunities that arise, I'm definitely going to jump at them.
And there's always plenty, like in the Fed or the SP or all those kinds of leagues, there's always plenty of opportunities just to sign like a weekend contract, like kind of like you did, where you just play a couple of games when the team
Yep.
wants some extra muscle. There's
Yep.
always those opportunities, which makes it great.
Yeah, and I have no problem. Some guys don't even like doing it. I embrace that. I love it. You know what I mean? That's what playing hockey is. It's the bonus. I know what I'm there for, and that's it, to be honest, that's what I love to do anyway. So, understand the role, to the fullest.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you got your scoring guys and you got your enforcers. I mean, everyone's got their role, and some guys don't necessarily like it, but other guys, like kind of like you, they love it. They can't get enough of it. I mean,
for sure.
You see interviews with some of these guys and some of the pros that were just animals, and they can't get enough of that shit.
Yeah, man. Yeah. When I was I'm close with Gills, Trevor Gillies. I talk with him a lot, do a lot of chatting with him after every scrap. We always go over my scraps, and talk, go detail for detail, because he's a real mechanical, strategical guy. And that's kind of even though I'm a bigger lad, I like that too. I'm just from the boxing background. I like using my head, you know what I mean? Not just longevity, but just in general, it's you got your head, you might as well use it, you know what I mean? And you can move it. A lot of hockey fighters don't move their head too much. They kind of just eat those punches. But no, he talk about crazy lads, man. Trev, man, he was just an animal, man. He's got, well, I mean, you hear all the stories about him, but he was there for all the guys. And then that's what I was going to say, what you were saying earlier about how we love it, but all the boys do too. The guys that are out there, one of the guys on the Sharks, Pobes, he finished with 0 PIMs this year, and he would be, on his feet, swinging his stick, screaming when I'd be dropping the gloves, louder than anybody else. You know what I mean? So, it does it for everybody. It's a big momentum thing. It's a big, it's an emotional game of emotions.
Yeah, it fires up the crowd, fires up the team. Sometimes that's the kick in the ass the team needs to.
For sure. And at that level, getting people in, you know what I mean?
Right.
Getting people to come out and, watch, at that level, that's a game changer, you know what I mean? Especially in this, like in the Southeast Detroit, like region, that I'm in, it's a hockey pool, it's a lot of talent everywhere. At that level, it definitely helps getting, some people coming in when, some blood, some punches being thrown,
Yeah, that's what people want to see. There's 2 things that'll draw people to hockey. Some people get drawn to that like insane skill, guys making moves, and other people who never watched hockey, they'll see a fight and they're like, "Oh, this is awesome. Exactly. What is this?" They start watching it, and it brings them into the game.
For sure.
That's why we'll talk about it a little bit later, but I think the NHL is going in the wrong direction with fighting. We don't have to get into that right now. We'll get into that here in a second. But what is this? You said you're going over to the UK for a fight in August. Is that?
Yeah. So I've been trying to, because I still haven't made my sanctioned bare knuckle boxing debut, because it's been, and especially now that I have a manager, we kind of we're smart about everything. It's But because originally I was supposed to go to the UK like 4 years ago, and when COVID was all fucked up, and it was a no-go. Yeah, every show ended up getting canceled. There were pullouts nonstop, and the travel was fucked too. But yeah, we've been trying to break it down. Because I've had 3 offers, and unfortunately, Ken Shamrock has his, the old UFC fighter Ken Shamrock, fought Gracie and all that. Yeah. He has a bare knuckle promotion now, and I got invited to go try out with them in Buffalo in July on the 10th, which that's an awesome promotion. Like they got great shows out in Vegas and shit. Like I'd definitely love to be a part of that. But I'm in one of my good buddies that I played with when I was younger and stuff. I'm in his wedding, and that happens to be like that during that little time period. So gotta be there for that. But yeah, anyway, we were deciding between these two contracts, and it's looking like we're gonna go over in the West UK there. Yeah, hopefully while I'm over there, I get to go to my dad's on the go to the island, go over to Ireland there and visit, because I think I'd only have 3 days over there, but I might have to take an extra day because I've never been to Ireland. My
Oh,
dad,
yeah.
Obviously back and forth, but I've never been there yet. So because that's where my dad's side's from, in Galway and Claddagh there, and got some family from Cork and stuff. So definitely like to make it over there for sure. But yeah, so I'm real excited for that. And then hopefully this year, a couple months in October, so hopefully I land a BKFC or BYB contract in the States. But yeah, so, and that's what I'm really pushing for. And I was actually just talking with my buddy Josh Burns earlier. He's he fought in the UFC, fought a lot in Bellator, but he switched over to bare knuckle. He's fought in BKFC several times now, and BYB and BKB over in the UK. And I'm gonna start training and sparring with him. And he's a big boy and just a very skilled fighter. So I'm really looking forward to that. He's got a fight for BYB August 19th, and he's training out of Dearborn and down in Allen Park in Troy. So I'm gonna go into his camp and have do his camp with him, and I'm really looking forward to that. Just somebody, heavyweight like me, a big boy, and just somebody with that experience level and that wisdom. Really looking forward to working with him and using that as part of my camp too. With my fight. So
Yeah.
yeah,
You got a
definitely
lot on your
excited.
plate. I mean,
Yeah,
training for
yeah, for
boxing,
sure.
training for hockey, getting back in. I mean, you got a
Yeah.
lot going on.
Yeah, because I'm 29 right now, and I spent a lot of my 20s. I've always motivated, sometimes in the wrong ways. I kind of was headed down a path that I just I got my shit together, and then once I saw I always knew what my passions were, but once the puzzles started falling into place and stuff, and I was I needed to give this a full go and really put all my energy, just everything towards this. And I'm still working, 50 hours plus in the factory a week, but I'm, making it work, get out of work and, go to the gym, get training, go to hockey practice, whatever it may be. But yeah, always going nonstop for sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm got big plans. So want to make it work, want to stack up all this fight money and, invest, be smart about it, not be an idiot, but definitely got big plans for sure. I'm excited for the future.
Yeah. And I mean, it's an interesting, like you said, an interesting path that you're on. And you talked about taking that time off from hockey. And, like you kind of said, if you wouldn't have, would you be where you are right now? Would you have these opportunities? You wouldn't, you know,
Yeah.
everything works
No,
out.
yeah.
It works out, maybe not in the way we necessarily thought it would, but it all works out in the end. And you end up on these, paths, this journey, you get these unique
Exactly.
experiences. And I mean, getting to play in the Fed and, right off the bat there after
Yeah,
not,
yeah.
that's an awesome. I mean, was
Pretty
that hard?
insane,
Like
yeah.
after being a goalie, you grew up being a goalie and now you're not playing
So
goalie, you got to be a skater.
yeah, because that's what like I still had to learn how to because even being a boxer, like I had to learn how to fight on the ice first anyway, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in player skates, player edges, all that type of shit. And that came quickly, and then yeah, the other part followed. If nobody's gonna go me, skating around and getting in the corners and all that shit. But it all came. You know what I mean? It came somewhat quickly, and like as I got going, like it all started, falling into place. But at first, no, absolutely. In those first few games, but at the same time, those first few games were easy because I'd literally only be out there for like those few seconds. And if nobody was going to go me, I'd get my ass the fuck off. You know what I mean? Unless
Yeah.
nobody would go me and he said, stir the pot, and I'd get off, or whatever. But no, it all started falling into place. But at first, no, 100%. Because when I went into those games, man, I'd never, like I said, until I started skating with the Waterford team, I hadn't practiced as a player, in player equipment, like an actual, competitive, like a
Yeah.
a team practice, like as a player. Yeah, so It's just silly. But no, 100%. Those first few games, that's awesome. But at the same time, I wasn't thinking that, because all I was thinking was like, when I get my hands on somebody, I'm going to kill him. Like that's all that
Right.
I was,
Yeah.
had going through my head. So, once you kind of have that switch on, it makes it easy. But no, as I continued playing, and then with the Waterford team, they actually started like getting regular shifts and stuff, and I was like, but no, everything fell into place, and guys like Jinnerheimer, a bunch of guys on the team, Grego on the Waterford team, all of them that have helped out. I mean, it didn't just happen overnight or anything, but they're all appreciated. But no, it's all like right now, man. I'm feeling pretty comfortable already, and that's what I mean. Like I'm excited to see where I'm at. And, halfway through this season, get a full season under my belt. Like I'm definitely excited for the future in hockey, for sure, to give these next few years, a good go.
Oh
Definitely,
yeah.
definitely hungry for it. Yeah, there's a lot of boys I want to go too, for sure. I
Oh yeah.
definitely
There's some
kind of
animals in the Fed.
yeah. And that's what it's about to me too. Like obviously, some dollars are good, but and especially not being back in the hockey world, that the reputation, the credentials, that's what matters to me, right? I want big names, and I really want to test myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, the Fed's a perfect place for it, because there's some guy. I mean, that's like the lot other than up in Quebec, the LNAH. I mean, this is like the
yeah,
last true fighting league. The Fed really is. I mean, you want to
for
go
sure,
with
for
boys,
sure,
that's the place to do it. Um,
for
so I guess
sure.
maybe that's a good transition into talking about like how hockey's changing. Like fighting is leaving the game at the higher level. It's being pushed out, and it's got to be all management, because if you see it, the refs break stuff up way early. They don't let guys go. I mean, it's teams are pushing that skill, and they're not.
Yeah,
They don't. Teams have one enforcer now, maybe. It's such a
maybe,
different
yeah,
game.
maybe,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Some teams don't even have an enforcer. I mean,
And that's what's said too, with the because there are some guys, like, unless with the exception of Luch and Revo, like the last remaining big boys who can throw, McDermott,
yeah,
like, but like the newer guys that come up, and they're bigger boys, and they're less talent than other guys, and they want to stick around, and they realize that that's a role that's still it's a slim role, but it still does exist to an extent, in the
yeah.
league. Somebody that when they want somebody to step up, and they're that guy that's like, okay, I'll go. And these guys don't even, I said it, I was talking a couple weeks ago, and I was saying that, that breaking their hand, first, second fight, because nobody's ever taught them how to close their fist properly, throwing a punch, small things like that. They had, maybe 2-3 fights, in junior, in major junior, and they're going to the show, and they're, trying to do the dance with a big boy. And it's like, like the whole thing that Quebec's doing, taking the fighting out, the QMJHL, and from that to even up to the minors, to the EC, that 10 fight rule or whatever they had in place, like that shit's just terrible. I don't get it. The fans want to see, and what we were talking about in the beginning with the NHL going in the wrong direction with it, like, you're exactly right, because combat sports right now is literally at an all-time high. And especially in the States, like stateside, man, fighting and hockey sells. People they love to see it. And I think if you just combine the two, I'm not taking anything. Obviously, the speed and the talent of the game are at a level that it's ridiculous, the shit they can do, right?
Oh
The
yeah.
talented guys. It's absolutely insane. And I love to watch it. But you're
You gotta have
random,
both. You gotta
yeah,
have
yeah,
both.
yeah. Imagine mixing in both like that. Like, imagine if every team did have a legit heavyweight, and then mix them into today's, NHL. Like, that'd be quite a fucking game to watch. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the new NHL, it's crazy.
Imagine.
No, you go ahead. Yeah.
No, yeah, I think it froze up a little bit too. But imagine watching, McDavid skate around for 20 minutes, and then top of the second period, you see, LaRock and Boogs, square off at the top of the second. Imagine that in, with the level of today's game, man. It just the entertainment value is just ridiculous.
It would be. I mean, I got some stats. I took a look at just different leagues. The NHL, the PIM leader was Pat Maroon. He had 150 PIMs in 80 games. I mean, you look at the Fed, Diamond Hands had 345 PIMs in 34 games. I mean,
Yeah.
and you look at the
It,
AHL, it's the same thing. There's guys like
yeah.
there's no pin. Guys aren't getting in fights. You look at fight totals. I think on hockeyfights.com, you can like go and it'll show like guys' fight totals each year. And
Yep.
guys have a handful of fights. In 80 games, you should have more than 5 fights. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
for sure. No, 100%. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And no, yeah. Shout out Ames, he's a beauty. Yeah, no, he put in some work this past season for sure. And cheers to him for, you know, uh, and with what he did in that league. I mean, the job opportunities, he's making a lot of job opportunities for for lads like myself, like
oh yeah.
like I was saying, for that mercenary type shit, towards the end of the year too. When we were locking down with Waterford, teams that had, guys like Ames coming in, they were, reaching out, to random guys, seeing who they could get in, you know what I mean? When they'd have him coming in town because they
Oh
wanted
yeah.
somebody that, be able to go with him. And that's what, yeah, hopefully next year, I'd love to drop the gloves with Ames. I mean, he's a good buddy and definitely got a lot of respect. But like I was saying, as I progress into the hockey world and stuff, like I really want to test myself. And man, I'm foaming at the mouth for that. That would be beautiful. And hopefully, and I was talking about AJ earlier, because they're out in Danbury together. I'm gonna go. AJ's got his shout out Champs gym in Danbury. That's AJ's gym there, and I'm gonna try to get the second half of my camp for my bare knuckle fight in over there. So I'll be sparring with Ames and all their guys out of that gym and stuff, because he puts in a lot of work in that gym right now, boxing wise and stuff. Ames is in there. And yeah, so hopefully I can wrap up camp there and put in some work with all those guys. But yeah, no, AJ, like I said, man, AJ's a great guy, and Ames can tell you that too, man. He's just real loyal, good guy, man. He's there for you, you know what I mean? And he can help you, progression, just all that, and the loyalty, it's huge. He can feel it. So yeah, for sure.
He could probably Ames could probably take most guys in the show, for fighting, because they, like you were talking about, they don't know how to fight. I mean, he'd probably have a hard time with somebody like Revo or who's just a monster. But there's a lot of guys in their show
who can grab you and move around.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, for sure. No, for sure, man. I hear you, man. 100%. Definitely agree with you, man.
And then, I mean, I think that's what's wrong with it. I mean, and it's dangerous, actually. People talk about how fighting's dangerous. Not having fighting's dangerous, because then you got guys doing cheap shots, and there's no penalty. You throw a cheap shot, you don't get beaten. You know what I mean? Like,
and even if the ref does see it and he gives him, a 2 and a, whatever he gives him, he's still, if he either harmed that guy, physically hurt him, or got under his skin, he's going to go to the box smiling. If you get your fucking jaw wired, if you get your nose fucking pounded into your face, you're going to remember that for a long amount of time. You know what I mean? You get brutally, embarrassed in front of everybody, and just.
And then you won't be throwing cheap shots anymore.
No,
and
you won't. It's a necessity in the game, man, and it always will be. I mean, you see it, man, in those different, and like in the queue too, man. That's gonna be so terrible. Guys are gonna be getting fucking zipped open with those sticks, man. I'm telling you, the stick work is just gonna be insane. If you don't have it, that's the fear. Fear is a big thing, man. It's a big thing. If you know, yeah, and that in a fast physical game like hockey, it does need its own policing. Sometimes the refs they aren't enough for this game. You know what I mean? Players have to take it upon themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's not working for teams. All these teams that are trying to adopt the only skill lineups, it didn't work. I don't think it was last season. It was like 2 seasons ago. I'm a big Ducks fan. Always have been.
Okay. Yeah, when I was in that, I loved Hiller. I loved his steel.
Oh yeah.
I was a full right tendy too. So I followed them back then. Yeah, right on though.
And they had Delorier for a while, and he's an animal. Yeah. I mean, he's a monster. Sure. And they traded him away. And not that long after that, one of their forwards got hit, and another forward tried to step in and fight, and he couldn't. He just got his brains beaten in by like Jay Beagle or somebody. Guy. You got to have an enforcer, because these other guys, they're paid to score. And then when they try to fight and they get their face beaten in, And your
for
guy who
sure.
you're paying money to score. I mean, that's the whole point of the enforcer. You pay him to do the fighting, and then
Exactly. That's his role. He knows what he's at. Yeah, no, it's simple mathematics, man. Yeah,
yeah.
no, what you're saying is plain and dry, man. It's I don't get it. It's well, just like when who is it? Who is the GM with Toronto when they had to trade Colt Nor? Was it
Oh,
the GM with Toronto? And he was like, he was like, he
yeah.
was like a day, when a time when I can't use, Colt Nor in my lineup, like it's sad to me seeing where that, when he's not, when he's not needed on the team, it's sad for me to see what the direction that the league is headed in, when a guy like that isn't needed in the lineup. And
Yeah.
man, it's crazy. Yeah.
It is. Well, I mean, it's not just hockey though. You look at other sports. You look at the NFL. Like you can't even touch the quarterbacks anymore in some ways.
Oh
Like
yeah, man.
there's certain rules. I get they're trying to be safe with some of this stuff, but in hockey, I think it's going to make it. If you take fighting out, those cheap shots, if you get a nasty hit into the boards, you're going to get hurt a lot worse than you are from a punch.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
being an
it's irritating.
enforcer, that's your whole role, and you're like watching it
Yeah,
getting taken away from the game. Well,
yeah,
only at the NHL. I mean, the Fed's it's still kind of a
for
jungle
sure,
down there.
for sure. But we're all watching, the show. We're fans too of the show. We
Exactly.
want it. Yeah, we want. I mean, it's just. And you're watching a hockey game at the end of the day. So when you see something like that, you're like, "Oh fuck, somebody gonna go? Is somebody gonna get that fuck?" It's.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure.
I mean, they get a few good tilts once in a while. I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh yeah.
Revo
For
started
sure.
off the year with that one with Felino, and that
Yeah.
was a good
Oh,
fight. I mean,
and Luch catching McDermott, man.
oh
That
yeah,
was whew, that was quite he caught him. That was and I was excited about that. We had just played I was playing with the Sharks and we had just played Gaylord up north. My dad's got a little country in northern Michigan, so I was after my game I came right down to that and stayed there. And that game was on. I got to see that live. And I was all fired up about that. Luch is such a gem, man. What a
yeah.
beauty.
And back in
Just a
Boston, oh
dinosaur. Yeah, man. Cheers to that, man. I'm excited about that. And fucking little rodent fucking I was
Marchand.
just about to I can't even think of the little prick's name. Yeah, Marchand. Fucking yeah. Sure he'll have his hands full protecting him. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
that's what I was gonna say. Weasels like that, man. Like and I know the pests have always existed, but man, he wouldn't back in the late '90s, early 2000s, he wouldn't have got away with half of the shit he fucking
no,
does.
yeah. There's
Jesus
a reason why they
Christ.
call him the Rat. I mean,
Yeah, oh yeah.
or whatever. You see it in
uh,
the what was it, the Avs Red Wings and their whole rivalry when
oh yeah.
Draper got hit into the boards there. Well, I mean, everyone had a bounty out on Lemieux. I
For
mean, he was
sure.
the
Yeah,
next
yeah.
target.
I got the D
Oh
Mac going
yeah,
right now with his
the
with
McCarty
his company
shirt.
he's got going. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, cheers. Yeah, no, he's a good lad. But yeah, no, I hear you, man. Yeah, for sure.
it's maybe they'll figure it out and it'll start going back a little bit. It'll never go back to the way it was. I mean, that's
No,
lost.
no.
The days of
Yeah, and
Probert and all these, that's
for
gone.
sure.
You
And
know,
yeah, and I'm fortunate enough to because like I mean a lot of kids, even kids that I'm playing, because like I said, I'm 29, so the younger lot, like there's a lot of shit that they didn't even see, right? Like I'm just thankful that like when I was growing up, I was a part of that last wave of like the early mid 2000s of the guys like Bugard, Larocque, Brashear,
oh yeah,
Gills, all those guys, I got to see those guys, and that definitely is special to me. But a lot of guys didn't even, kids that are playing now, in the younger 20s, didn't even get to see, that shit. They totally miss, all that part of hockey, which is such a big part of it. You know what I mean? To the
yeah. They
extent that it
don't.
was at the NHL.
Yeah, they don't even know the history. They have no idea who some of these guys are. I'm sure
Yeah,
there's kids growing up who don't know who Probert is, or Ty Domi, or Dave
right,
Tiger Williams, or all the
right,
guys you
right.
named. They have no idea
Yeah,
who
oh
these
yeah,
guys are. Legends of the game, but legends for a different reasson. I mean, of course, every
exactly.
kid knows the goal scorers. Every kid can tell you
Oh
the
yeah,
guys that can score,
yeah,
120 to 150 points a year. Everyone can rattle those guys off, but
Yeah.
There's not as many kids who can tell you
Well,
the guys who. And I
yeah,
actually,
and it's funny because the ones that they do think of too, like when you say Revo, like a kid today will be like, "Oh, Reeves, man, what a like, man,
yeah,
Reeves is a big tough boy, but
he's nothing like.
there were some animals, yeah, compared to the animals, the big boys back then, like he's a cup of tea, man, like,
Yeah,
but yeah,
you look at the
yeah,
numbers of the PIMs these guys had. I mean, Probert and
oh
and Dave Williams.
yeah,
I mean, Dave Williams almost had
yeah.
4,000 PIMs. I mean, that's insane. Just
He's such
crazy.
a beauty. Yeah, he was
You
nuts.
look at Revo, and yeah, he's an enforcer, but he actually doesn't fight that much. I mean, you look at
No,
his
and that's
numbers.
NHL's today's NHL enforcer. You know, that's what
Yeah,
it is. So yeah,
he's good for
yeah,
your tilt once in a while, and then people think he's. I mean, he's a big boy. I'll give him that.
yeah,
I wouldn't want
for
to
sure,
tangle with him.
for sure. Yeah, yeah, I'd love to. That'd be definitely any opportunity like that. Fuck, I'd love that. But yeah, no, I
Yeah,
hear you for sure.
it's a different game, but hopefully it doesn't ever go completely away. Yeah,
For sure.
it'd
Yeah,
be a sad day when if
yeah.
that happens.
I don't think it will at the professional level. I just don't. I even as much and just for the effort they've tried this long and just seeing the different waves that it's went through, like when they were really trying to squeeze it out, like in that post lockout, like after the last lockout, like they really started coming out with that the instigator, like all pushing all that shit, and that didn't squeeze it out. You know that kind of. I don't think it will get, but I hopefully the NHL just finds that like a level that they can deal with whatever the fucking
Yeah,
people that have the problem, and they can manage just a little more entertainment in that aspect of the game would be nice for sure, because like I said, stateside where most of the NHL teams are, and obviously in Canada the people want to see it too, but like the fans want it, everybody wants it, the boys love it, like let them play how they want to play, let them bring in the guys they want to bring in, let them. I don't know,
yeah.
it's a different game, but like I said, I hope they find that level ground where it's still get some heavyweight, some more consistent heavyweight tilts in there, along with the skill and speed of today's NHL, which obviously is absolutely insane. What we were talking about earlier, some of the shit those guys can do, man. It is watching like half of the moves, man. I was watching the other day, all the lacrosse moves and shit.
Oh
Those
yeah,
guys, all the Michigan moves, like it's like a regular thing for like little kids to be pulling off Michigans now and shit. So
yeah.
silly.
Even Gretzky will talk about it. I mean, he'll talk about like just how different the skill is from when he played to now. And I mean, he's the first one to admit that it's a different game, and he doesn't know if some of the guys who played back then how they would fare in this league, just because the skill and the speed is so different. When you got
Yeah,
the GOAT saying that, you know it's. I mean,
for sure.
it's.
But then at the same time, you say, how would they fare with going, getting
Oh
fucking
yeah,
two hand while they're trying to do anything, with lumber in
yeah,
their fucking teeth, any move they made, you know what I mean? Because you had a
yeah.
lot of guys that
It
were,
goes both
yeah,
ways.
yeah, exactly. But 100% what you were saying too, for sure, definitely.
Yeah, it's.
Yep.
I mean, it's the game. It's the game we all love, and we love it
Oh
for a
yeah.
reason.
Yep.
And
Yep.
what was your team? Are you a Red Wings guy because you grew up near Detroit?
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I was born and raised in Pontiac, which is like 20 miles north of the city, 20 something miles north of the city. And growing up, uh, my grandma, like a lot of the family, when they first got into this area, were all in Corktown and shit. The little Irish part of Detroit there. So it's always spent a lot of time in Corktown and down in the city growing up, back and forth and stuff. And yeah, always a big Red Wing fan, especially with the team, growing up with, and even into my early teens and stuff. But as of late, unfortunately, it's been kind of rough. But yeah, always been a Red Wing fan for sure. But
Yeah,
right now, team wise, I'd say I don't know. I don't I don't know. I don't really fanboy anybody too much, especially just because I mean, like I was honestly watching. I was a big fan of Calgary just because they had Luch this year.
yeah,
Yeah, guys like that. Like when I sit down to watch, unless it's obviously playoffs and everything, but to sit down and watch a full NHL game, I like knowing, what guys are on the team, to see if anything happens in that. Just for me personally. I mean, obviously I can, like a good hockey game. It doesn't have to have a fight or anything like that, but still personally, definitely helps me sit through an entire game knowing that there's a possibility of a dinosaur like that going.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you know what you want. You're an enforcer. Of course, you're gonna like that stuff. I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
it's ingrained in you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's a good place to kind of wrap up the episode. So good luck with your bare knuckle stuff. Get back
Yeah,
in hockey.
appreciate it.
Hopefully you get some opportunities here this next year. Some guys who, even if it's just for a weekend here, weekend there,
Yeah,
get to tangle with
there's
some guys.
for sure. I've talked with a few guys already, so there definitely will be some stuff happening during this hockey season for sure. So definitely stay tuned. And
Yeah.
that bare knuckle fight out in August. Real quick, I just want to shout out some of my sponsors real quick, if that's all right.
Yeah.
So big shout out to Wheel TV, Wheel Production. Big shout out to the Waterford Sharks boys, obviously. Hit Club Hockey Supply Plus, Dynamic Wealth Solution, Tim Hooker. Shout out again to Bare Knuckle Gym down in Tampa, Smith Brothers Combat Sports, Smith Brothers Management Firm, and Vision Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Big shout out to Charlie at Vision Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And I believe that is it. I don't think I'm missing anybody. I hope not. If not, I'll make sure I shout them out on a post or something. But yeah, all right. Yeah, I appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on. Glad to have you.